she had a lot of interesting aspects of the protests, really dynamic kind of human aspects of the protests. And they would only, instead of actually showing some of the footage that they were getting on the ground there, they would only loop this very violent, very negative kind of footage over and over again. And that was and so she quit right away, and she, became a Kundalini yoga teacher.
Question everything. To some may seem cynical, but you don't have to greet questioning everything with a cynical nature. Jussie Smollett, or at least his infamous attack, is back in the news. And it leads me to want to talk about a few things, including the fact that when I saw the alleged attack show up on the news, my first instinct was, something's wrong here. I didn't know what it was that I felt was wrong about it, but just something, the way it was being shown, the way it was being presented, something just felt off.
We've got some breaking news. Actor and musician Jussie Smollett from the hit show Empire was attacked and beaten early this morning in Chicago.
Two suspects who were apparently wearing Make America Great Again hats.
It feels like we're living in the 60s and the 50s again. They making racism okay again.
Jussie is love. That's who he is.
Lo and behold, we come to find out that it wasn't real. And now we have this happening on Fox News.
Well, his story is back in the news again because the two people who helped him commit that hoax are coming forward to give a play-by-play of what happened that very night.
This is where we waited for Jussie to come before we attacked him. So we got here with 10 minutes to spare, and we had to plan our escape route to survey the land.
Reenacting how they attacked him that day? How can we ever trust the media again? And I say media because when was the last time that we got any news? This is why I started with that clip from Guru Jagat, because we don't get presented the facts on television or in the news media anymore. We are presented a performative, very narrow narrative about what's going on, not by any stretch of the imagination, whole picture of what is going on in the world when we turn on any form of media, including the news. So, first of all, I want to make this point before I share with you some of the points that Amala made, because I feel like she really made these, she said these well, and I don't want to just regurgitate what she said because I feel like she makes the points herself well. And so I'd rather just share them with you. But I think the first point that needs to be made here is that you shouldn't ever let them make you feel bad about what your intuition is telling you, especially when it comes to feeling like it's fake, because it was.
Empire fat Nick. It's MAGA country.
It's MAGA country. Hey, just juxtapose this with how much the entire world freaked out when they heard this story. People on the news crying, Ellen Page on Stephen Colbert, crying her eyes out over what happened to Jussie Smollett. And just to think that this is what was happening on the back end, this is why you need to properly vet things before you engage with your outrage. Anger is easy, it happens quickly, let it subside. You can watch this and not find this funny, but overall, it's not the funniest thing in the world because these people got together, these three individuals worked together to perpetuate a narrative that this country is systemically racist. Doing all of this to push the narrative to you that they are part of a victimized, marginalized group. And the fact that they had to go and create this hoax shows how well we're doing as a country, shows how much progress we have made, because Jussie Smollett couldn't get two white people to go and do this to him in the street in what would be an actual attack fueled by racist hatred. He couldn't do that. He had to hire two other black people, and people went real quiet about Jussie Smollett after the real news came out. Nobody retracted their original statements. Nobody came forward and said, you know what, I'm sorry that I used that story and the anger that I felt to push a narrative, not just on black people, but on white people and really on all of America, and frame this country as something that it's not. There was no retractions. There were no sorries. Now we just get these two guys reenacting what they did.
As we develop our intuition, we start to notice more and more something's wrong, something's off. You can feel it, even if you don't know, even if you can't necessarily point to what it is, which we should all learn to develop the skill set that is figuring out what you're seeing. You know, learning human behavior in this way is important, because we don't want to just rely on, oh, well, I feel like something's off. Develop that skill of being able to point to, oh, and now that I've recognized I feel something's off, I'm noticing this gesture here and that thing there. Those are the things that will actually help develop a credible backing to your intuitive senses. And this brings me to Dylan Mulvaney.
And celebrity class, the president of the United States, are willing to sit there and be like, yep, this is a little girl.
Yeah, and I saw an article the other day that Dylan says, oh, I started coming out as trans when I was 4 years old. And that's what the article said, and apparently that's Dylan's claim. Even though there are many videos on the internet of Dylan as a man saying that he's a gay man performing in Broadway on shows like The Book of Mormon. And the narrative seems to be shifting and changing a little bit, because we're trying to get our footing as we become more and more famous and more people want to know our story. So we'll see. We'll see about that.
Oh, me too. Oh. And
it doesn't feel real.
And the performance that Amala so eloquently said this about.
I don't even know what to say. I know what I want to say, and that is, this is fake as fuck. That's what I really want to say. I'm like in my brain while I'm watching this trying to find a way to say that in a more tactful sense, but I cannot find a more tactful way to say it than that. It's so fake.
When talking about him being on the Drew Barrymore show, we don't get, and I was talking about this on Instagram just yesterday, we don't get honesty anymore. We get performative honesty. And this makes it very difficult to partake in any amount of entertainment, because they're selling it to you as real now, when it's not. It's still performative. And, you know, people like Dylan Mulvaney say things like they're getting hate, like the trans community is getting hate. But Amala made this great point.
It's important that we define what hatred means in this sense, because I made a video about Dylan way back in the day, just criticizing some of the things that Dylan said in his videos and criticizing directly his support of children being able to transition and supporting trans youth. Now, that criticism is going to be labeled as trans hate. I'm now labeled a transphobe, a TERF, whatever you want to call me. Now I have that label, and Dylan took to the internet to make a video about my podcast, crying and saying, this conservative girl made a podcast about me and she's so full of hatred and criticizing me and all of this. Criticism is not hatred.
The motivations do deserve to be questioned. And these are the things that we need to be wise to. You know, the Piscean age spiritual love and light, sort of just blind to things, it's not going to work for this Aquarian age. It just isn't. I believe that we all as human beings are capable of nuance thinking and recognizing nuance and recognizing that blanket statements, they're a thing of the past. They are a thing of the past. And when it comes to making statements, we can recognize that no, not all, or in this situation, and think contextually. I believe in us. I believe in us. I believe in you. I believe in the rest of everyone else. I know that we are capable of this. So, we have to take into consideration motivation. Things like the fact that, though as even Amala points out, Drew Barrymore seems like a very sincere person, but even she has an ego, and even she wants to stay relevant, which is why she does things like this with people like Dylan Mulvaney. It's just the name of the game.
The negativity. How have you dealt with it? How do you...
I still read the comments, but there is so much hatred directed at the trans community right now. It's everywhere. And I think the greatest weapon that I can contribute is trans joy and comedy and talking about hard, subject, to let everybody in to see that, I'm not a monster. I'm not somebody that, is trying to do anything but be myself and be happy.
What I will say is, guys, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. Because Dylan Mulvaney, as we all know, at least in his past life, wanted to, be on Broadway and be a star and was auditioning for all these shows and acting and was in the Book of Mormon. That all doesn't stop now that the transition happens. In fact, it's catapulted. This is going to be a meteoric rise of Dylan Mulvaney.
But we don't have to play their game. And so I want to end with this. Good or bad attention. We used to hear this about bullies. If you give them attention, it's attention, whether it's good or bad attention. If you don't give them any attention, they'll go away. And this is how I feel about people like Dylan Mulvaney, any TikTok celebrity, TikTok in general. If we stop giving it attention, it'll go away. Fade into distant memory like Vine and MySpace. I think that it's what we need to do with TikTok. Resist the urge to watch the car crash as we drive by, and use the bazillion other options we have when it comes to social media, so that things like TikTok, which, I used to believe that there was such thing as being a light in the darkness. But you know what actually gets the bad things to go away? The unhealthy things to go away? Not giving it attention. Letting it fade into history. So that's what I think. I think I'm not on TikTok. I've considered it. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. That's just what I think. Let me know what you think. Do you think there should be more acts of light in the darkness, or do you think that if we just don't give it attention, it'll fade away like everything else has? What do you think? How much of this do you think is fake? I know that many of it, we know the Jussie Smollett thing was fake. Do you think that it's better to have performative attention to something? Or do you think that it takes away from those who are actually doing it 100% genuinely, like I do? I think it would be better to just have those who are doing it genuinely be elevated, for a lack of a better way of putting it, rather than these performative, my mental health journey things that are so performatively done that they're put out at specific times, to the point where more of it's fake than it is real at that point. What do you think? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you for joining me for another video. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, not just with me, but all of your favorite YouTube creators. And as always, may the energies you serve you well. And let's keep making our way through. And I'll see you in the next and I'll see you in the next one.
We're addicted to the information, so you have to decide how much information can I take in and process it quickly and utilize it in a way that is going to give me energy rather than take energy from me.